So this little piece I started on, it now has 2 coats of ash, which is the dark gray. If you want to go back to the first, to yesterday's video. Colors, this is the ash color, it's dark gray, almost a black. And I did the whole frame of the dresser in the ash and the top. And then what I did here was I took 2 colors of ash and putty, and putty is like a really light gray. I was actually really surprised when I blended these colors together here that it turned out steel blue. So I mean, it was a bonus to me. It's a nice color. I love it. I'll definitely be using this blending color again. I said it's almost like a blue jean, like a faded blue jean color, but just really nice. You could do so many things with it. So it's kind of a bonus that it turned out that color. I wasn't expecting that. But today I'm going to show you a little bit about, I'm going to use a top coat of the Fusion Mineral Paints Driftwood. Now I have watered it down a little bit with Wipe On Poly, only because I find it's a little bit thick and I want this to be coat. You can't use Fusion's top coat on the darker colors because it will tend to streak, and I don't want to take that chance. So I'm using their Stain and Finishing Oil in gray, but I watered it down a little bit, about 50%. So that's good enough for the top. But what that will do is it will give it a nice top coat finish to it, so it's protected. So if someone put a cup of water or something on it, you know how people are. They put perfumes on it, their water, whatever. And if it got onto the bare paint, it might leave a mark. It will leave a mark on wood, on bare wood, but the top coat is always nice. So it's either a really heavy wax coat on top or something like Stain or polyacrylic or Fusion Stain and Finishing Oil. Other brands have their own type of top coat, so that's fine, whatever you want to use. I just have to have this, and it happens to be gray, so that's what I'm going to do. I wanted to show you, I see a lot of people asking about whether they sand in between coats of, hi there, whether they sand in between coats of paint. I used to, but now I really don't anymore. I just kind of leave it to the last coat, and then I give it a little bit of a scuff sanding. And what I use are these sanding pads. They come in a pack of 2 for about $4, and I always get a 220 or higher if I can find it higher. Sometimes you can't. This is one that's been used a fair bit, so it doesn't have, you can hear that, doesn't have quite the grip that that one does. This one is really rough. And then I also cut them in half, and I use them. This one's really worn out, so this is perfect, I think, for giving a final little sanding of this. And so you don't want to sand as in sand a layer off, you just want to scuff sand it. So all I do is I take my little half piece and just, it's not even scuffing it for the purpose of scuffing it, it's just to take any little paint nibs off. I don't even need to do here. I do want to do the fronts, and even at that, for dresser fronts, it's not necessary to do that. But like I've said before, 99.9% of the time when I do a piece and sell it, the person is going to come and rub their hands all over it. They rub their hands all over it, they'll buy it. It's just crazy. I mean, I noticed that a long time ago, but it's just like, I think it's they want to know if you finished it properly, and most people will rub their hand over it and they'll go, oh, that's really nice. So that's what we want to do with that. I'm going to show you what I use for the waxes. I use Fusion Minerals wax, but I also love these Bear brand wax from Home Depot. They are about $18 a tin. There is a ton of wax in them though. And this is as wide as my hand. That's a big tin. This is the black one. They have a few different colors, but I like the black one. I tend to use black wax most. There's another one that's called Antiquing Wax, and it's more like a black brown, but it will leave things kind of with a brownish hue. And then I also use their clear wax, because before I put on black wax, I always use a little bit of clear wax. And what that does is it just allows you to move the black wax around or take it off a little bit easier. So I'll show you how I do that. And we'll do that just in here. If you can see, it doesn't really show up very well on camera. I know it's kind of annoying. But if you can see, and I mean, what you're seeing there is variegation of the paint, but in real life, it actually looks really cool. It's kind of hard to pick it up on the camera. But here I want to darken this dark row of paint here. And when you're blending, you really don't want it to be super perfect. I mean, that just defeats the purpose of blending. I am going to take my sound off. I'm sorry. There's all these things you have to do before you start. Oh, I can't. Hopefully it's not my husband bugging me about buying something. So what I did yesterday off camera was I took a... Okay, hubby, go away. Hold on. I have to fix this. What I did yesterday off camera was I took... There we go. Now I have to make sure I can get back to you. Was I took a little bit of the dark paint and I just went right around the edge here and then I wiped it off. So it just left kind of a dark grungy residue, and that's what I want. I'm kind of going for this look with this because, like I said, I want it to be a guy's dresser or a young guy's dresser. So that's kind of the look we're going for. So I'll show you how to do that with wax to kind of deepen this color. But first I want to actually do the top here and get that over with because I'm afraid I'll spill my stain. So I'm going to pour a little bit of stain into a container. And all I use for stain is, I sometimes use a cloth to wipe it off with. It's best if you have like a t-shirt type cloth. And sometimes I just use paper towels. So I don't have a cloth handy because I didn't have time to grab one. So I'm going to use paper towel. So what I've got is my little tray of gray stain. And I don't need much for this at all. But the very first thing I'm going to do is take my sanding block. Now, if you can hear this, this is where I haven't sanded. You can feel how rough it is. And that's just from the 2 coats of paint. So if I take my sanding buffer pad, and you'll see the color turn slightly whitish on the paint, but that's okay. It'll come right back as soon as you apply a top coat or wax or something like that. So that is now sanded. Now listen to it. You can barely hear it. So that is what sanding does to your paint before you put a top coat on it. And then just wipe it with a rag. Get any residue dust off of it. You could even use a tack cloth. Sometimes I use a tack cloth just to give it an extra white. Just feel it with your hands. Make sure everything's off of it. Okay, so now I'm going to just put some stain and finishing oil on my chip brush and brush it on. Now this finishing oil is much lighter than the ash paint that I have. So keeping that in mind, I don't want this on very long. I want it to go on and off fairly quickly. So I'm going to quickly do this. And it's kind of going on in a random sort of look, but that's okay because I'm not keeping it. When you do stain, you put it on and then you take it off. You don't really leave it. The longer you leave stain on, the more color gets into your piece. But if you're just doing it like for a top coat like this, because it has the oils in it, which is what I want, that's, you don't want to leave it on very long. You want to get it on and get it off. Okay, so, and because it is a gray stain, it's going to leave it a little bit lighter color on the top, pretty much, I think. But that's okay. I actually want that look. So you have to kind of think ahead when you do these things, like, what is this product going to do? What's the end result? And do I want that end result, or is it going to mess up my look? So you have to be really careful in that sense. Okay, so that's been on a minute. Doesn't need to be on any longer. And then I'm just going to take my cloth and wipe it off. And like I said, it's going to leave a really nice sheen on the top. Right now I'm just wiping it in a little bit into the pores of the paint. And now that I've got it that far, I'm going to roll my cloth up into a nice little square. And I'm just going to go end to end, one end to the other. And I'm going to pull off that stain, and that's going to leave it with a little bit of that gray stain on top, but it's also going to leave it with a nice oily sheen on top. And it's leaving a little bit of gray streak, but that's kind of neat. I like that. If you didn't want it to have the gray streak, I would suggest using straight polyacrylic or something like that. But so far, it's looking pretty good. So you just keep working it off until you get it to exactly where you want it. My cloth is a little bit saturated. It's a little heavy around the very edges yet, so I'm going to use my paper towel. So basically what I did was I used a type of top coat. You don't have to use a stain and finishing oil for a top coat. It doesn't look crazy different than it did before, but it didn't discolor the ash look either, and that's really important because some of these finishes will distort dark colors. So okay, that was pretty simple, but that is what it took. And that way, once that really dries, it's going to leave it with a nice finish so that whoever uses it doesn't have to worry about doesn't have to worry about, can you see that there? Having the thing get wet and then messed up. So what I want to do is darken these areas. This clear wax that I'm using will darken it. If you can see it kind of darkening there. But it's not quite as dark as I would like it to be. And I'm actually going to wax my entire drawers. I'll do that off camera, but I'm going to wax all of the drawers, just the fronts. So I don't need to do anything else. I think the sides turned out great. I'll show you those in the pictures when we upload pictures, how nice the sides turned out. So I'm putting clear on here. And I'm going to just do all the door fronts first. You can see how it's deepening the color there. And then I'll show you where we're going to put the black. So you want a clear wax brush, a dark wax brush, and a cloth is what you need to do this. And I actually have flat wax brushes like this. I have round tipped ones. There's a whole bunch of different kinds you can get. So now I'm going to take my black wax, which is on the wrong side of me again. Sorry. I had this all set up until I went and changed the lights. Then I changed everything. So now I'm going to take the black wax and I'm going to dip my brush. I'm going to take a little bit of it off on my cloth here. And I'm just going to go around the very bottom here. So I don't know if it's picking up on camera, but can you see how dark that suddenly got? So it's just like as if you were doing some antiquing on it. I really want that to be darker, and I want it to be darker in there too. Okay, a little bit in there. Okay, so put more up here. Now I'm going to take my cloth and I'm going to wipe back the rest of it. And if there's any place where I think it's too much, I will take clear wax and put it over top of the dark wax and take any excess off that way. But I think that looks pretty good for that one. There's a little bit here I don't want. So what I'm going for is kind of a grunged up look on this dresser because it's a really pretty steel blue now, but I sort of want it to also be kind of more masculine than anything. So I'm doing that, and I'm just going to go just back over a little tiny bit with my brush one more time and make sure I got it all. So I think that looks pretty good. you'll find with wax, you keep fiddling and fiddling and fiddling until you get it just the way you want it. So that's a pretty masculine, grunged up look. I think a guy would like that, actually. Okay, so let's go to this one. I'm just going to do a couple of these drawers and then we'll put the hardware on. Excuse my reach again. Okay, so I'm going to put some clear wax on this drawer. And then what I'll do after too is once this wax has completely dried, I'll go back. And when I say completely dried, that's like 10 minutes or so. I'll go back with a nice clean cloth, like a piece of a t-shirt or an old pillowcase or something, and I'll buff it up. So all this does right now is it's just highlighting the color a little bit. And I am doing the whole drawer face because these get touched all the time. This is the part of these things that get touched all the time. So over time, they tend to get a little bit chipped up and damaged from that. So you want to have some sort of a protective cover on it. So that's why I use the wax or polyacrylic or top coat. Just depends which brand of stuff you use. Okay, so that kind of deepened it up a little bit more there too. It's nice. Otherwise, it's kind of like it's okay, but it's not as nice and rich as I would like it. I'll do one more quick one here. So yeah, you can use wax. I never really used to use a lot of wax, and I've been using it lately. More and more. I actually really love this Bear brand because it's so creamy. I've tried the Fusion brand and I really like it too, although I find it really thick. I do have their waxes as well. But I like this brand because it's super creamy and it goes on really well, and it's a really nice sheen to it as well. I don't know if all waxes are equal, but these ones seem to be a little bit nicer, I guess. So I'm going along the bottom there and making that deeper, and along the top underneath this ridge, and going in here. So you can see how that sort of deepened things up a little bit. The reason I take it off right away is because with black wax, the longer you leave it sit, the more it's going to soak into your stain or your paint, and then it can get really, really dark. But as I said before, if that does happen, you can take clear wax over top of anywhere that you want to take the dark wax off. So for instance, there's a little tiny piece here that I think it's wax. Let's see if I can get that off. Might be paint. Yeah, it's wax. So I just took my clear wax and went over it. Seemed to be a little bit dark there, but I like that look, so I'm putting it back. Okay. And the other thing about waxing too is if you get your wax on and you think it's okay, and then you do all your wiping and your buffing and everything, and then you come out the next day and you look at it in a different light and you think, oh, that's not quite as dark as I thought it was. You can always go at it and do a second round and make it even darker. I do that a lot. Okay, so that's really simple. That's just using that as an accent and really making it nice and rich looking. When I do the photographs, I'll get the light set up perfectly in front of it. It's kind of hard to do right now because I have to move around here and I can't have my lights out properly. So, but I want to show you how neat these handles are now. If I can find my screwdriver to open the drawer. So these handles I just basically washed. I just took a toothbrush and some soapy water and I gave them a little scrub, but I want to see what they look like because I think I was going to paint them, like I said, and then I changed my mind because I thought, you know, these colors are pretty cool. They really go well with this steel blue color. I'm just like, whoa, that sometimes you just luck out, right? So, and then after I get the handles on and the rest of it waxed, I will vacuum out the drawers. I'll make sure there's no grungy hand marks or anything like that in the drawer. Oh, my screw is not wanting to go in. I always have trouble putting the drawers back on. I don't know what it is about me. And then we'll just tidy it up. I like to really detail pieces right from the inside out. If there's if there's a drawer that's kind of, you know, broken a little bit, or if there's something wrong with a piece, whether it's structural or whatever, I always fix it. So basically when I sell these pieces, they are pretty much like brand new pieces. And I mean, I could go down to one of the big box stores and see something like this in a custom color and be paying a lot of money for it. So, it's really worth doing them. If you have any pieces like this, for sure, go get yourself some paint. There's some really good brands out there now, either chalk paint or acrylic paint. Fusion mineral paint is an acrylic paint, but I also really like Dixie Belle paint. I've used that. There's a couple of brands I'm not crazy about. And the nice thing about Fusion is you don't have to top coat it if you don't want to. It has a built-in top coat, but I always do something to the drawer fronts because, like I said, they can tend to get really scratched up if you don't have something protecting. So either wax or top coat is what I generally use on all the door fronts. Okay. So isn't that cool? Like, these handles are perfect. They're just literally perfect. So tomorrow, or later today, depending on what time I get in bed here, I will find a little spot in my staging wall here to take pictures, and we'll take pictures and we'll put them up on our Facebook page. And then all of these videos that I do, I remix and I put them up on our YouTube page at Flandrens Interiors, and I'd really appreciate it if you guys would go over there and hit like on our remixed videos and share them, or at least subscribe. And thank you for watching these. It's nice to see that we're building up our viewership, but it's slow going, I must say. There was one other thing I was going to say, and now I can't remember what it was. So yeah, with these handles, I had tempted to spray them black. I used the hammered metal spray from Rust-Oleum. I was gonna. It turns out a really pretty kind of silvery black. But then I got looking at these, and I kind of tried them out one day, and I thought, you know, those actually, they look better now on this piece than they did originally. So that's kind of a bonus, because if I can keep the handles original, I will. I have literally taken pieces where I've completely changed out every handle, or I've embellished the handles by adding back plates and things like that. So there's a few things you can do with the handles. But if the color doesn't go, spray paint it or paint it out, do whatever you do, or you can do to fix that. Or put new handles on, that happens too. Okay, that is that. I think that looks pretty neat. That is a cute little chest of drawers now. It's really modern. It's very masculine looking. The colors that I used were ash from Fusion Mineral Paint and putty, but when I blended just in the drawer face here, the front, it turned into this beautiful steel blue, which was really surprising. So I'm guessing that ash has a lot of blue in it, and I didn't know that. Ash is one of my favorite grays from Fusion Mineral Paint. So that dresser is about done. I'm just going to quickly show you how the sides turned out. I didn't do them on camera yesterday. Hopefully it shows up pretty well here. So I did the same thing, just a little bit of blending, a little bit of gray, a little bit of blending. I might sand these down, just buff them down and give it a coat of wax, because the wax just brings out the color a little bit richer than before. That's all it does. And it does protect the surface, but for the sides, they don't need to be protected. So that is that, and I hope you learned a little bit about black wax. Don't be afraid of black wax. It really adds a lot to a piece. But this was fun to do. It was pretty simple, and it's going to go up on the marketplace, and we'll see how fast it sells. So thank you for watching. Make sure to share, like our Facebook page, follow us on Instagram. I always put our pictures on Instagram as well. And we will see you next time. Bye.